Hi, this is John Han, and the Pulsing Cinema movie of the day is The Blob, the 1988 remake directed by Chuck Russell, starring Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith. And, it's a 1988 film, the end of the 80s, but it was still very much an 80s film. I remember this was one of the first movies that I begged and pleaded for my mom to take me to go see this when it came out in 1988. I'd read about it in Fangoria, or really just kind of looked at the pictures, and my God. The layout of this, the special effects in this movie, it's like the original, The Blob, and then the remake. I mean, it's just like incredible special effects. I mean, The Blob in this movie, okay, we all know the story of The Blob. A meteorite comes down from the skies. It has this blobby substance on it, and it just starts growing and taking over people and eating people, and it starts to eat an entire town, okay? And then the young people in the town are like, hey, there's a blob, and the old people are like, well, fuck it, we don't believe them. And then there's the dynamic, right? The old Blob from the 58 version of The Blob, was just very simplistic. The new version of The Blob melts people, it eats people, it turns people into blobs of jelly, and there's just so many freaking scary scenes in this film, like the Blob covering a fucking telephone booth and causing things to explode and implode, and then the Blob becomes like freaking Godzilla, it just grows to this meteoric size, and it's just an incredible film, incredible special effects. It's just definitely the perfect movie to take a young person to. It just blows your mind, and I mean, there's so many, you could take the Blob concept and you could make a very average, boring movie, with it. There's so many ways you could just make it into a late 80s type, crappy horror movie. You could do it really badly, I think, the concept of the Blob. And the original film is just very simple. It's a very simplistic horror movie. There's a conflict between the adults and the teenagers, and there's just that dynamic, and then the Blob and how that's resolved. Very kind of simplistic stuff, but I think with the Blob remake, you had the director Chuck Russell and the writer Frank Darabont, who I think he brought on. And the Chuck Russell, Frank Darabont, they'd already made a good team when they did Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I think a lot of the success of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and the fact that we're still seeing Nightmare on Elm Street being made, I think a lot of that has to do with Chuck Russell, because, they were in a very perilous, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, they were on a very perilous cliff with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Because Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, was not like Part 1. It was different. It was a cash grab. It was made very cheaply, but very, well done. It's not a bad movie. It just continually expanded the story of Freddy Krueger. But it was not like Part 3, Part 4, and Part 5, and Part 6. Really, Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont on Nightmare 3 established, a lot of the blueprints of 4, 5, and 6, that you have this group of teenagers, and they go into these dream assaults with Freddy, and then, so a lot of I think the success of that Nightmare is just how well done and how well written Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is. And The Blob is a really well written film. It just is a very simple film, and this Kevin Dillon character, the way he's just written as this kind of this teenage delinquent who's trying to come to terms with his life and his family, and he's working as the mechanic, and he has all of these character things, and we see at the beginning of this character trying to jump that cliff, and then we see that payoff later on, and it's very simple, very obvious stuff, and the cross cutting between the teeny boppers at the football match and all that stuff, and then how that, and so we have, it's not complex character stuff. It's not a drama, but we have these very simple characters, and we set them up, and then we see them grow into this situation, this horrible, terrifying situation. And there's so many little gags, and there's great stuff when they do with the Blob, and the Blob is here, and the scene with the lover's lane, the guy at night, when he's got that friggin', he's got like a mini bar in his friggin' car trunk. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, what the fuck? This guy's like in his car boot. He's got this mini bar. He's got a little mixer. He's got his whole thing. And when that in the theater, I still remember that got a laugh. And even as a little kid, I was like, wow, this is ridiculous. This guy's got a whole drink thing in his in the back of his car. But it was funny, that little, and scenes like that, how that scene develops in such a cool way with mucho special effects. Great stuff. Great. It's just a great film. A great film. Just perfect, well written with great special effects. Even has a great poster. And great actors like Shawnee Smith and Kevin Dillon and Jeffrey DeMunn, who plays the sheriff. Very much the same role that he was playing in The Hitcher. It seems like the sheriff from The Hitcher kind of like reincarnated into this dude. He was playing sheriffs for a while. He's like, oh, you're a sheriff in that film. Be good in here. Well, I guess it was also a TriStar film as well. So there it is, The Blob, a great remake. I don't know how they're going to top it if they decide to do another remake of this film. They may. I don't feel they will though, because this is a good movie.